Every night, without fail, something shifts. The lights go out, and your body tightens. Your ears sharpen. Your eyes search for something that isn't there. You've done this 10,000 times. So has every human who ever lived. And the reason goes back much further than you think. 2 million years ago, the African savanna did not belong to us. It belonged to them. Leopards hunted at dusk. Cave hyenas could bite through bone. Saber-toothed cats stalked the brush in complete silence, and every single one of them had something our ancestors didn't: eyes built for the dark. A leopard's night vision is 7 times sharper than ours. A hyena can smell prey from 3 kilometers away in pitch black. Our ancestors, by comparison, were essentially blind after sunset. This wasn't a minor disadvantage. This was an existential one. Fossil records are brutal about this. Paleoanthropologists have found skulls of early humans, Australopithecus, Homo ergaster, with predator bite marks on them, leopard puncture marks specifically. These cats didn't attack at midday. They attacked at night, dragging their prey into trees to feed undisturbed. Humans were on the menu regularly enough to leave a mark on the fossil record. So here's what happened over hundreds of thousands of years. The humans who felt uneasy in the dark, who stayed close to the fire, who slept in groups, who jolted awake at a snapped twig. Those humans survived. The ones who wandered away confidently at midnight didn't leave descendants. Fear of the dark wasn't a flaw in our ancestors. It was a survival filter. Every generation, the nervous ones lived. The fearless ones vanished. And slowly, that wariness got baked into the biology of every human being alive today. You didn't learn to fear the dark from a bad experience. You inherited it from 10,000 people who had a very good reason to. And there's something else. The dark doesn't just hide predators. It hides everything. Your brain, unable to see, starts filling in the gaps. And it always fills them with the worst possible option. That's not anxiety. That's a system working exactly as designed. Turn off every light in a room and stand still for 30 seconds. Most people last about 10 before they flip the switch back on. The reason isn't what you see, it's what you can't see, and what your brain decides to do about that absence. The amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure deep in your brain, is your threat detection engine. It runs constantly, scanning your environment for danger. In daylight, it has information: shapes, movement, distance, faces. It can assess, categorize, stand down. But in the dark, it gets almost nothing. No visual data, no confirmation that the room is empty, no way to verify that the corner is just a corner. So it defaults to the one strategy that kept your ancestors alive: assume something is there. This is called threat bias. When information is incomplete, the brain doesn't split the odds evenly between safe and dangerous. It skews toward danger, because the cost of a false alarm is embarrassment, but the cost of a missed predator is death. Evolution doesn't care about your sleep quality. It cares about survival long enough to reproduce. Researchers have shown that humans in darkness show measurable spikes in cortisol, the stress hormone, even when they know they're in a completely safe environment. Even when they've been told nothing is there. The rational brain believes the room is empty. The amygdala disagrees and overrules. There's also a sound component. In the dark, your hearing sharpens dramatically. Sounds you'd filter out in daylight become significant. The house settling, a car outside, your own heartbeat, each one gets flagged, processed, cross-referenced against the threat library. This is why lying in bed at 3 a.m. feels louder than noon. It's the same house, but your brain is listening differently. The dark forces your brain into high alert, and high alert feels exactly like fear. Around 400,000 years ago, something shifted the entire equation. Fire. Not just for warmth or cooking. Fire was the first technology specifically designed to fight the dark. A controlled flame does something remarkable. It creates a circle. Inside the circle, you can see. Predators avoid flame. Threats become visible. The darkness gets pushed back to a manageable distance, and for the first time, night becomes survivable in a way it simply wasn't before. But fire did something else, something less obvious. It created community at night. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups, the San people of southern Africa, the Hadza of Tanzania, have documented what happens around an evening fire. Stories get told. Knowledge passes between generations. Social bonds form and deepen. Grievances get aired. Plans get made. Researcher Polly Wiesner found that daytime conversations among the Jew/Huanzi people were almost entirely practical: food, tools, logistics. But nighttime fire conversations were 80% stories, narrative, imagination, shared meaning. Fire didn't just protect our bodies at night, it protected our minds, giving the brain a focal point, a source of light and warmth, a reason to feel safe enough to stop scanning and start connecting. Then, we built houses, electric lights, smartphones with screens that simulate daylight at 2 a.m., and in many ways, we solved the darkness problem completely. Except the fear didn't leave, because the brain that evolved over 2 million years doesn't update in 2 centuries. The amygdala doesn't know about LED bulbs. It still treats a dark hallway the same way it treated the edge of a firelit camp. Unknown territory, possible predator, proceed with extreme caution. We inherited the fear from people who desperately needed it. We kept the fear long after the predators disappeared. That gap between a modern safe bedroom and a brain still scanning for leopards is where the fear of the dark actually lives. The interesting thing about fear of the dark in 2024 is that almost no one will admit it runs them. Adults who are entirely comfortable in daylight will still check behind the shower curtain, will still leave a hallway light on, will still feel that odd pull of unease when the power cuts out and the house goes completely black. Most write it off as habit or imagination, but it's older than either of those things. Developmental psychologists have tracked when fear of the dark typically emerges in children between ages 2 and 4, right when cognitive imagination kicks in, when the brain becomes sophisticated enough to model threats it hasn't directly experienced. Children don't fear the dark because something bad happened in it. They fear it because their brain has matured enough to understand that unseen things can be dangerous. That's not irrational. That's the system coming online exactly on schedule, and for most people, it never fully switches off. Research consistently shows that adults exposed to darkness show the same physiological fear responses as children: elevated heart rate, cortisol spike, heightened auditory sensitivity. The difference is adults have more context, more language to explain it away. But the underlying response is identical. There's something almost clarifying about that. The next time the power goes out and you feel that tightening in your chest, that's not weakness. That's 2 million years of successfully staying alive, still running in the background. Your ancestors sat at the edge of the firelight and listened into the dark. They passed that vigilance to their children and their children's children in an unbroken chain that leads directly to you, standing in your kitchen at midnight, suddenly very aware of the corner you can't see. The dark hasn't changed. The predators are mostly gone, but the brain remembers, because forgetting just once was never an option our ancestors could afford. Fear of the dark isn't a glitch, it's a 2 million-year-old gift from people who survived because they took the dark seriously. If you found this interesting, subscribe. There's a lot more of this kind of story on the way.